Last week we released a video that's about 300 miles being enough. Tell me what you're thinking in the aftermath of that thing hitting. Ready, set, go.
Wow. So people were very, very passionate about that topic in general, especially the people that reserved a max pack. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, when Rivian first started taking pre orders, they said that, the largest pack would be available first. And we've now found out that that's delayed.
Mm-hmm.
But, we had our video where we said, basically all three of us, that we personally didn't need a max pack, and a lot of people piped up and said, hey, you're wrong, but they were thinking about their own use case, not ours, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we're not bagging on the max pack, but Jimmy, I don't know, what are your thoughts?
I mean, everybody's idea of what they need is simply that. It's their idea. I mean, we can't tell everybody that the 300-mile large pack is going to be great for them, because there are going to be instances that, like we found out on the site, that the large pack will not get you from Austin, Texas to Sweetwater, Texas, without going way out of your way in order to get there. I mean, there's just no direct route. So, maybe in that instance, you get the max pack, and unfortunately, you're waiting. And I don't know if we want to cut this part out, but I'm going to say it and we can digest it. But, in 2018, the Max Pack was going to be the first truck. The truck with the Max Pack was going to be the first one. And fast forward to November 16th of 2020, and we found out that that's no longer the case. And you were going to be waiting until the Max Packs came out, and the large packs were going to be it. And people decided to wait on the Max Pack and forego the launch edition. And there are quite a few people who, instead of taking the good that was offered to them on November 16th of 2020, decided to wait. And now there is tons of regret on that side too, because there are people that are now switching to the large pack that are now delayed because they're getting the adventure, because the launch is gone.
I feel bad for those people because they picked max pack over launch edition, which, yeah, they can't go back and turn that into a launch edition now. If they had known then what they know now, they would have probably all configured launch editions and then switched to max pack later. But
But they did know then. I'm not trying to sound harsh, but I mean, November 16th, we all knew, the ones that had pre-ordered prior to November 16th, we all knew when that email came out that launch editions were going to be 300 miles and the max packs were going to be later. Now, we didn't know what later looked like, and then hello 2021, and well, 2020, and then the delays with COVID. But yeah.
so there was one other point that someone brought up, and I can't remember whether it was in YouTube comments or the comments on the site.
Mm-hmm.
But it really resonated with me, and it's something that I hadn't thought about with regards to the Max Pack. I mean, my stance on the Max Pack in general is if you need that additional range a small percentage of the time, I'm going to say less than 10% of the time, find a way to make do.
Mm-hmm.
And try to go without it. But the point that someone made is actually about the lithium and the rare elements that are in the batteries. And if you take up extra batteries and raw materials, natural resources that could have gone into putting more EVs on the road for something that you don't really need, maybe even something you just want, then that is something to consider, because we need more EVs on the road.
Jimmy, you mentioned just a few minutes ago on this that what you think you need is just that. It's what you think you need. The whole point of that video last week was that what you think you need, you might be surprised by, because you went from the southeast to the northeast on essentially on a small pack itself, being like a P85. So what is it, 240 or something like that?
Yeah, it's a 75, so 229 after what degradation I do have in the battery.
So 229, so you're already well below 300, and then you were just charging the bottom half. You stopped more, but then ended up saving more time. Your point was is that you did a quote cross-country trip, a bigger road trip, and you found that it was better to stop often. Now there's some people that said, okay, well then if you had a 500 mile pack, they didn't say this, I'm just like rehashing here, but if you had a 500 mile pack and you wanted to charge then from 0 to 250, or from like 20 miles to 250, you'd get more range on that bottom half that charges faster. Wouldn't that be better? And we understand. Sure, all things considered, but then that's a bigger battery. You're gonna have to still wait longer to charge all those. Well, depends on, like right now it's a bigger battery. In the future, okay, maybe not. You know what I mean? With different battery tech and all that kind of stuff. And in the future, all things being the same as far as like weight and all that, if we can get the same amount of batteries to go further, then sure, I'll take it all day long. But then what we also said is that charging is only going to get better. So if you can't go from point A to point B in Texas right now in a year or two, you probably can. So you spend all that extra money, and to Skylar's point, extra battery that now you don't need. And so there is, I guess the bold part here is just to challenge your own assumptions yourself.
Right.
And especially take a little bit of look at what current EV owners would tell you. Like Jimmy being a 3-year EV owner. Like, have an open mind to it, and don't try and just compare it to like how you travel in a gas car. Like, just try and have an open mind, I think, is what we were getting at there.
Absolutely. I mean, put some thought into it and challenge your own thoughts, feelings, assumptions. And so the way that I thought about it, literally there was a very long trip that I mocked up personally that would have taken, I mean, it's over 1,000 miles. And when I did that one just with default settings, it took me a more direct route, but then I set it to making more frequent and shorter stops. And it took me a completely different route that had a lot more chargers on it, but it actually reduced the total amount of charging, although it increased the amount of overall travel time by 53 minutes. So going like an extra 100 miles to take a different route, but only increased the overall trip by 53 minutes and had me on a route where there was plenty of chargers. Now, we do need to acknowledge, and I feel like we did this last time, but maybe we need to emphasize, there are people that do need the max pack, and we understand that. But I think there's a lot of people out there that want the max pack that don't really need it also.
Yeah, I mean, the 1 to 10% that you're going to drive more than 400 or 500 miles, is it worth 10 grand? Someone
mentioned that they will still just rent a vehicle to go from California to New York. And to spend $10,000 on MaxPack that you might only use, if you know you only use once a year, you can rent your gas from wherever, name your place, for pretty cheap, especially if you rent a car instead of a big SUV or truck. I mean, unlimited miles, and you can still get like 46 miles a gallon. And once a year, that might be a good way to do it.
Absolutely. There are alternatives for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. This is To Be Continued, so please do subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In the meantime, please do join us over at rivianstories.com. This really is a phenomenal community. It's the community for true Rivian fans and owners. You'll find a ton of great interaction and information, and you can even pick yourself up a t-shirt or sweatshirt. Thanks.